Everybody, I have a very special guest on the podcast today, and I'm usually have people introduce themselves, but I want to say her name because it's such a catchy name when I first saw it. I just want to say it out loud. So It's the Horny HouseWife. I love it. Hello, and her, AKA Jordyn Hakes. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? I love the alliteration, so I like it.
Yeah,
too.
it's like one of those names where once you say it, you want to keep saying it, and you'll never forget it. So bravo to whoever came up with that idea. It's marketing 101.
My husband actually thought of it, and I don't think he thought I was going to use it. I think he thought he was being funny. And then I was like, I'm going to use it. But if you Google it and you don't put podcast after it, it's just all porn. So make sure you put podcast unless you want to find that.
That makes complete sense. So again, Jordyn, tell everybody a little bit about you and your podcast and what you speak on.
Basically, the podcast, I call it the couples locker room because it's an environment where I want people to feel like they can shoot the shit and not be judged or anyone be easily offended, where we can be like brash and blunt. I mostly solo podcast. I do have guests on occasionally, but I mean, I'm very picky and it just seems to go better with just me there. That sounds bad, but I like it like that.
Some of us work better alone, solo, than, collaborating. So I totally get that. Now, how did this
talking? Sorry.
Go ahead. Okay.
I like talking to podcasters though, because you know how it goes. You know what I mean? You know how to talk on a microphone. So it all depends what kind of person you get. But the podcast topic is mostly marriage and sexuality.
The Horny Housewife, like how did this whole persona and this effort in the podcast, where was the genesis of this idea? Where did it come from?
Okay, so basically, not to be emo, but my mom died like really suddenly, unexpectedly, fucked me up. And I think after that, my perspective of like, what am I gonna do with my life? Because I always idolized her she was a housewife and she was a horny housewife, totally.
Oh, okay.
Like she was me, but probably a little more refined and religious. But she was still me. or I'm a lot like her. And when she passed away, I think my perspective of life changed. And I kind of lost my identity in being a wife and a mother. And so I was like, I want to do something. I thought that would just fill my cup. And my mom always told me that wasn't going to fill my cup. And so I find out it didn't. And I was like, what do I want to do? And so I pursued something that I thought I didn't know what would happen with the podcast. I know that I listened to a lot of podcasts and it was a lot of either chronically single women. Like I couldn't find someone talking about sex and marriage the way I wanted them to talk about it. It was more like they got to go on all these dates and the hookup culture and stuff I didn't relate to. So I was like, let me have this conversation. And then it just ended up blossoming.
Blossoming is like that's the least. I mean, you have over 1 million downloads. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I actually have over 3 million.
You see, downloads. My mind's blown with that. I mean, I'm at 40,000, and I just started like a year ago. So, but for you to have that reach, I mean, it speaks people are really reacting to what you have to say, and it's an important topic and an important niche in a way, because like you said, you can listen to hundreds of podcasts about hookups and single sex, which is a big difference between married sex and single sex. But no one's ever talked about it. And I heard a few of your episodes this past week, and you don't hold back. You don't sugarcoat anything. You're pretty blunt to it. And I think that's what guys need to hear. Guys always want to hear the blunt truth, whether it's going to hurt us or not. So the delivery is awesome. You're obviously doing a great job.
Delivery does matter. And I think obviously are there some people that I probably offend, or it does not rub them the right way, or they're triggered. I mean, you should read my 1-star reviews. They're pretty fucking ridiculous.
Oh my God, I bet.
But, but there's way more good ones than bad ones. So there's a lot of people who want help to understand their spouse, and we're not mind readers. So you have to shoot them straight.
Yeah, definitely. And you said you're married. So how long have you been married?
I've been married not that long, 5 years, and we've been together 8 years. So it's really wild when people that are like 30 years married are on the podcast and are like, man, that tip really helped. And I'm like, I didn't even think I could help. someone like that. But I think it's perspective, and who knows? I tell my husband, like, you're my first husband. You can stay my husband. You know what I mean? Like, I try to keep him on his toes, which is fucked up a little. It's mildly toxic, probably. But I think that's what people want to talk about because no one's perfect.
No,
so
absolutely.
You got to be realistic.
Mm-hmm. And you said you're a mother too. So you have one child or two, or?
I have a stepson who's 13, who's with us half the time. And that's interesting. Being a stepmom is a whole other thing. I don't normally talk about them specifically because I want to protect them, but we have a son who is 6. So I am surrounded by boys, testosterone.
Oh man. Okay. And the reason I asked that, because I don't know if you know my story. I was married 16 years. I got married at 21 and I got divorced in 2016, and I've been very vocal about my faults, and I cheated on my ex-wife, and that's kind of how I gained notoriety on TikTok. But a lot of women started listening to me because I kept saying, I acknowledge I was an asshole. I did fuck up. These are the mistakes I made. I never blamed her. I had my reasons, but I never blamed her. And right now we have
I need to deep dive you on TikTok. Now I have to go on a.
and again, I was so hated. Like December 2021, I was so hated, but
really?
People kept coming back and saying, "Oh, he learned his lesson." And I speak to my mistakes and I speak to what I did wrong. And in other words, I failed at it, but I became a better man and learned from my mistakes. So please listen to my stories and.
Yeah. And I'm sure, I'm not saying I don't want to defend cheating, but also I feel like there's lots of reasons people cheat, and there's a lot of factors. So it's not just somebody, I mean, there are just pigs. There are totally men who just want to fuck a bunch of women. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being who you want to be as long as you're not living a lie. Or betrayal is different. I don't know. Betrayal is what makes it fucked up. There are people in open relationships. There are people that swing there, and they still can betray their spouse even though they fuck other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they may break their rules or whatever
boundaries,
agreement they have. Boundaries,
something. Yeah. So this is a personal question, and I'm not supposed to ask the questions. You are, but I want to know. So did you feel like there was something missing at home though? You didn't feel seen or validated? Was it an emotional thing? Was it a physical thing? Were you you were bored? Were you just bored?
Well, I mean, that's a deep question, and I have a whole episode dedicated to that. So no, it's fine. I'll answer that. It was a mix of everything, but mainly it was an emotional need because the reason I brought up kids is because at the time we had 2 kids, and you know how it is. Kids, they're the love of your lives, and you're so consumed with being a wonderful dad and mother.
They suck your soul.
We forgot to be husband and wife.
Yeah. They suck you dry.
Oh God. Yeah. My fiance right now, we have a 6-month-old. So there's definitely a paradigm shift. And what happened was we forgot to be husband and wife for years. And I was always that guy who said I was never going to cheat, but it was a lot of reasons. One, I was growing in the space at work as far as my career was booming. I was doing really well, and hers wasn't. And I remember there was this distance between us, and whenever I came home, I was always told I didn't do what I didn't clean right. Mm-hmm. So my dynamic at home I felt like a failure, and this is years in the making. I was success and celebrated over here, but at home I was a failure. I could never do anything right. This isn't enough,
not good enough. Gotcha.
Yes, you don't make me happy. It's your fault I didn't finish school. So it was a lot of those things. And I'll admit, I didn't know how to communicate. I've said many times that communication is the best thing for marriage, right? But if you're not listening and you're waiting to talk, you're not communicating. Yeah. So I was always, what about me after she was done? So it was a lot of reasons like that. And plus sex, it got to the point she didn't want to do anything. It was just missionary, or just in the middle of the night, I'd poke her with my heart on and she'd just roll over sideways and hurry up. I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. And then eventually, as the years went on, I lost a lot of weight. I was working out, and younger women started. I was 33 at the time. I'm 46 now. Younger women were starting to flirt with me, and they knew I was married. And before you know it, as the months went along, I just finally gave in.
Yeah, and I was like, women don't care if men are married.
I know, and that's not spoken to enough. I mean,
they don't give a fuck.
They don't care.
They probably prefer it. They're probably like, oh, he won't bother me, or he's busy, or I don't. Some women, I don't know.
Why do you think that they pursue married men? Why do you think that is? Before I continue with my story.
I mean, I think it depends on the woman. They walk a different. I mean, if she's a scandalous woman, I'm calling her that. If she is a woman with a motive, whether it be financial or whether it, I mean, there are some women who I do think fall in love with a married man, and but they are impressionable and naive and usually young, and they have daddy issues, and this man fills their daddy issue. And I don't know, we could deep dive on that, but there's lots of reasons why they go for married men. Some of them are married and just want to fuck. So they're married too. So perfect.
Yeah. There's so many, that company, everybody was cheating on everybody. It's insane. But I did it. I felt horrible and I confessed. And that was
oh my God, you confessed?
I couldn't live with myself.
That
I hated
is,
myself.
well, that's rare. That speaks to your character because most men do not.
Yeah, I was not going to be that guy. Like, you're insane. You're stupid. I felt so damn guilty. I hated myself. And then I finally told her. Of course, it hurt her. And that was year 8. And we tried for years.
Did you think you liked the other girl? Like, I cheated one time in a relationship where I thought I would never. And I did. I thought I liked the other person. Did you think you did for a short time?
I fell in love. But
and then why did you confess? Because you were in love, or was it not reciprocated?
It was a delusion.
Yeah.
It wasn't real. It was a delusion. It was just a fantasy that, became physical, but it wasn't true love. It was just, I was infatuated with the idea and my dopamine levels had never been that high. Keep in mind, the sex life was struggling before that happened. So I'm feeling all these emotions and urges that I haven't felt like in like 5 years, maybe. And it wasn't real. And I hated myself. So I told her, and we were married another 8 years, right? And there were other reasons. She wasn't an angel. Again, I'm making myself to be the villain, and that's fine. But she did a lot of other things herself. But ultimately, we ended up getting divorced. And it was a clean divorce. It wasn't ugly in any way. But it was emotional to answer your question. Though. Yeah, it's and
I mean, brutal again, at your life expense. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, to the married, to your point, there's a lot of men out there who are in my position, who are trying to be better lovers to their wives. And you said your audience is mainly men. Is that right?
I mean, it's 70% men and a lot of couple listeners as well. It's people trying to like date their spouse for sure.
Okay. So let's start with the married couples, the married men. They're reaching out to you. What are some of the problems these married men are having and they want to fix?
Yeah, a lot of them don't know how to talk to their wives about sex. So whether they have an issue, like something they want to communicate to their spouse, whether it be about their own body, something that's going on, or they want to share a fantasy or a desire, or they want to tell their wives they're really unsatisfied and feel like their libidos are completely mismatched and they feel neglected or rejected. Because sometimes, and this happens for whoever's the higher libido spouse, because there's plenty of women that have the higher libido too, and that's not talked about enough. They feel super unwanted and undesired and not pursued. And that creates a negative dynamic. And then the other person feels not seen or not heard, whatever it may be. So I think just having the conversation about sex and what they want and how they feel can be uncomfortable, but once you do, it's so worth it. And to your point, you're speaking, the truth here because I live there. But the problem for me, if I can just rewind that, go back 15 years, I was terrified to have that conversation. I was terrified of her getting upset or mad. And I think a lot of men, you could probably attest to this. Conflict. So,
well, it's like we were maybe like I wanted to do more things sexually. Hey, I'm attracted to this type of woman. Threesome. Every guy wants one, right? On paper, but in real life, that's a different story. But anyway, I mean, we all want to talk to our spouses, but maybe it's our insecurities, it's our doubts, but we're scared to talk to them, to tell them. And I'm sure there's a lot of wives in that same position to bring it up.
Well, I feel like timing and delivery really matters. Like you can't just go up to your wife and say, I really want a threesome. Let's fuck your best friend. You know what I mean? You can't do that. So I feel like this sounds fucked up. It's not, I don't want to say manipulate her, but there is just like if I wanted to buy something, or I'd probably fuck my husband first and then ask him right after. I don't know. I feel like you could be a little more strategic with how you bring things up, and then if a guy wants a threesome, it needs to be her picking the girl and it be her idea. And so you need to figure that out.
Yeah. And bringing up something right after sex would be the perfect time, because those guys have the best clarity.
Perfect time. And then, and especially if you started out with dirty talk, or it doesn't have to be, it could be novelty for a while. You don't know if you want it in real life yet. So there's lots of room to explore a topic without like going out and doing it right away.
And as far as again, staying in the married space, are women having the same problems? Like, what's leading them up to maybe having a dead bedroom, or start to have that, the gap in intimacy? Like, what are some of the things that happen?
I mean, I think communication's big, but also like after kids, like we were just mentioning, women can lose their identity and their children, and they stop taking care of themselves, and their self-esteem plummets, their self-worth. And now like I feel like masturbation is literally the key for women to be happier, because they stay in tune with their body and they know what they like, and it's healthier for men and women to have orgasms frequently. It's like better for your fucking health. So I feel like it always starts with ourself, whatever issue it is, and then talking about it and not keeping it to yourself. So.
Yeah, because that'll grow over time, and maybe it'll erupt to something, maybe resentment, or maybe cheating.
Oh yeah, they resent.
Like
that's what they resent their husbands, and they feel icked out. They don't like the sex they're having with their spouse, and they don't know how to say that. So really, if they switched it up and had a really uncomfortable conversation about what they wanted, and were okay with hurting their feelings, because you're gonna get your feelings hurt, but it's better than never talking about it and growing apart.
Absolutely. You sounded like me right there, because I always tell people, have that uncomfortable conversation, because that's what I didn't do. And when it came to everything, especially sex, and I feel great that I'm in a relationship now with my fiance where, we watch pornography videos together. Like, this is what I fantasize about. She knows, and we have it playing in the background sometimes. And it's like, I could not have done this.
Yeah.
in my first marriage.
Like you're yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so damn, I'm a curse fucking free. I mean, it's awesome because you're being yourself. And again, you don't have to worry about the other person having insecurities. Like, you want her, you want to fuck her. Like, you think she's hot, I'm not. None of that happens. None of that takes place.
I think that comes with a secure woman though. Like,
yes.
Yeah. And I mean, we still get insecure. Like, you can be a secure woman and then feel like shit sometimes. So it doesn't mean you're always secure. But if you're just constantly worried, and in your head, you're fucking it up.
It's funny. It's not funny, but I'm on Facebook now. I just opened up a profile there, and that's kind of blowing up. And I swear to you, hundreds of messages from women saying, I love my husband. He's a good man. He's a great provider, but he does not satisfy me in bed. He doesn't listen to what I have to say. He's just very lovey-dovey, like, baby, he's making love to me, and I want to be fucked.
She wants to be fucked.
She wants her hair pulled. I'm reading this. I'm showing my fiance. Is this a type of guy,
though? Is this a type of? Is that a type of guy?
What do you mean?
You're a guy. When these women that are telling you this is. Yeah. I don't feel like that's every man. You know what I mean? Some men want to please and they want to fix it. So they're going to even go with emotions, even if they're like scared. So what is it? Pussy men? That's so mean. But I don't understand why they can't tell them and then they do it or try.
It could be most guys. And again, I don't want to speak for everybody. For myself, I'm very rough. I've always been rough and wanted to be rough. And I couldn't be rough in my first marriage. And after I started dating him after my divorce, oh my God, I was like a bear who was just like in captivity in a zoo his entire life. And I just went wild. So most guys want to be rough. They want that type of passion, but it has to be, and I think you can attest to this, there has to be some passion on the other end. If you're not into it as much as we are, then it cancels out my passion. So there has to be something there that goes tells us, hey, we're doing right. We're doing something right. A moan or kissing us back, something. We need to know that we're pleasing you, and that just gives us extra boost.
You don't want to be a dead starfish, or you don't want to be, what is it called? A fish, a dead fish. What do you call it?
Well, a starfish, or that's what I've heard. Like just
you don't want to, no, that's not a good reputation to have. You don't want to be that girl. And you don't want to be a man that's a selfish lover, that you're not giving a fuck about her orgasm, because then she's really not going to want to fuck you.
Yeah. With all your contacts and people that reach out to you, are a lot of women saying that their husbands are selfish lovers?
A lot of them are like, yeah, they skip out on me. I mean, I have a lot of people that write in and rave about their marriage and their sex life. And and they like listening to the podcast because we talk about like different topics that come up in marriage inevitably, because, there's still seasons. Like, even you can have a good marriage, what you consider your good teammates, and you're not going to feel that dopamine rush all the time. The new relationship energy goes away. So you have to, that's why I'm like, it's okay to be a little mildly toxic sometimes, because you've got to like keep the person interested. And I do think it's a personality trait though. Some people are just more okay with being mediocre. And there's some people that just are not content. They're insatiable. I'm insatiable.
Okay.
So I know that's a personality trait I have.
Insatiable in what regard? Are you just always looking for just variety, or just different things, or just what?
I mean, I'm in a monogamous relationship, so I'm not I'm making it with him right now. But I feel like, with everything, I think even working out, the foods I eat, like it's just my personality of how I like to do things a certain way. And I always on to the next. If I complete something, like having sex can make me want to have more sex. Does that make sense? Instead of feeling content, like I'm finished, it's like, now I want to have it 3 more times. Or if I complete a goal, like I'm on to the next goal, not really sitting in the gratitude, which I should more, of completing the first goal. So it's something I work on.
Absolutely. I had Dr. Tyra on a couple of weeks back, and she was amazing. And I asked her the question, how important is staying attractive for your spouse in a marriage? And she says it's absolutely important. You have to. There's no doubt about it. Like she even brought up like vows, like I vow to be, husband, wife, for better, for worse, but I also vow to give you my best and be my best for you. I promise to evolve and continue to learn and grow as a person. And, you're always going to give your best and not be mundane or comfortable.
I completely agree.
I do too. As this is my second go around, I totally agree with that. Men are very visual. I know a lot of women hate to hear that, but it's the truth. We love beauty.
It's completely true. I love her, by the way, and I know what clip you're talking about. But I think that I know that hurts people's feelings, but it's true. Like if you gain 50 pounds and you look like a completely different person, that's kind of like neglect on your part, neglecting yourself. And people care about people who care about themselves. And so when you're not, that's part of dating your significant other, is wanting to look good for them like you did in the beginning.
Absolutely. And I wish more people did that. And, I think I've pissed off feminists. I pissed off women. I pissed off guys. I pissed off everybody, which I think that's telling me I'm doing the right thing. But whenever I preach videos about that, I get the pregnant women. Well, I had his kid and I did all this and that, and that should be good enough. He should love me for who I am. You men are sick and this and that. So what do you say to those women that rebuttal and get upset when you bring up looks and they had kids and they let themselves
go? I have so many feelings towards modern feminism that I can't say on here, because then I probably won't have a podcast anymore. But
I understand.
I don't know. I think that's bullshit. And that's like them making excuses for being unhealthy, because it really all is a choice. And I'm sure they don't feel good when they stand naked in the mirror. I know society like praises every weight now, but it's literally unhealthy. Like they're shortening their lifespan. Right. It's not good for your heart. I think it's weird. I think it's fucking weird. And the same should go for men. Like, I don't want my husband to gain 70 pounds and not care what he's wearing and shower once a week. Like, there's a million reasons why women will say they're not attracted to their husbands anymore. I mean, it's stupid. They're just being stupid. That's mean, but they're being stupid.
God, I love you for being honest. That's so awesome. We need more honesty like that, because I'm a Gen Xer, and as I see these things happening,
Wait,
I'm
what
like,
is a Gen Xer?
Somebody born like, I think it's 74 to 89. No, 74 to 83.
I was born in 89. I'm a millennial, right?
I believe you are.
Like I'm a middle millennial. I'm 34 this year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm 46 and I can't believe time is flying by so fast. Anyway,
Time flies.
we grew up in the sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. So
Yes.
words don't hurt me. They never have. They don't hurt us.
I am rubber, you are glue. Whatever you say to me bounces off you.
So you see, the rhymes, it's like those things don't bother me. And now that I see this generations, like words do matter, and words can get you canceled. They can get you fired. And speaking of like the overweight women are celebrated as models and this and that. And I'm like, are we really doing this? I mean, when did this start? I get the insensitivity of calling them out, but it is not healthy. And I'm Hispanic. And I know a lot of us don't take care of ourselves. So I made it a point to take care of myself. I didn't want diabetes at 40. I wanted to stay healthy. It is a choice.
It's a choice. And
I don't get this
I
whole
understand loving yourself. But if you love yourself, if you loved yourself, you would take care of yourself, mind, body, spirit. So that includes body.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, if you let yourself go, you're not going to feel sexy. You're not going to want to have sex. Yeah. It's a horrible cycle. And including men, I know a lot of guys, including myself, when I was married, I gained a little weight and I couldn't get erections anymore because I was just so out of shape. My blood pressure was bad. I lost a lot of weight and boom, problem solved.
It affects everything. It like trickles. The last episode I talked about low testosterone and like how it affects you as a whole beyond boners and sex drive.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Absolute big deal. I wanted to ask you this, H0e Phases. Do you think it's recommended for young people to have a H0e phase before getting married?
Well, 1,000,000%. When you said you got married at 21, I was like, oh, that's why. No.
I was like, I remember this one point, she just didn't want to give me any BJs. And I'm like, why? Just really just hurry up and finish. Like,
Definitely
really? I'm like, this is the
H0e
only,
phase.
like, yeah, we need to, we need to.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad. My husband he was how old when we got married? I was 28 and he's 5 years older than me. So he was like early 30s. 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. Okay. So I feel like good for him. I know that he went all around the world and I didn't go all around the world, but I went to Nashville for a year. Then I went to Portland for a year. Didn't know I'd meet my husband, but I did. But I purposely was like, I'm going to experience everything I want to experience. I had no rush to get married. And I think that is catching on in society. People are, if anything, I think there's like an attack on the family unit and they're trying to perpetuate everybody, girl boss, like, all of that I'm not going to go into. But I think that people should see what's out there before settling down. You don't want to buy a car without test driving it.
I agree. And when I preach that, and pretty sure I'm sure you've been on social media, you see that there's this movement of younger men, these alpha bro podcasts where they ridicule women with body counts. Now, I'm not saying have a body count in the thousands or anything like that, but, explore your fantasies, find out who you are and what you like. And why do you think that is? Why do you think there's a lot of young men who are frowned upon or ridicule any woman who's like sexually free?
Well, I think because it's gone to such an extreme because women are now being told they can be men. So they're like, I'm going to be the player. I'm going to have a roster. I'm going to do like, for so long it was men are dogs, men are cheaters. Women cheat just as much and are just as scandalous. So that's
they're better
baloney.
At it.
What?
They're better liars and they're better at cheating. Yeah, you'll never know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm a terrible liar. So if someone asks me a question and they know me, there's like, I just make a really bad face. So unfortunately, but they could hide it. Like there would never be evidence of it. But men are stupid. No, you're not stupid, but lots of men are stupid and don't hide it. They like don't clear their history or don't. But yeah. I guess if you want to cheat, you'll figure it out. But what was the question? Sorry, I totally spaced it out.
Well, we're talking about how having a H0e Phase before getting married is important, and I asked you about it being ridiculed, like these younger men.
Okay,
ridicule
why do
women.
men? Yeah. Why do men give women a hard time for that? Well, slut shaming is a real thing. So I think that is fucked up. It's just a double standard. But I think a cool guy wouldn't do that. I mean, I understand if they don't want to date a girl on OnlyFans or someone who is, you know, handing out all the goods to everyone and they don't want that. But if she fucked a lot of people in her past, that's just him being insecure.
I agree. And I can understand it from a young man's perspective, because when you have a higher number than me and I'm like 25 and your number's higher than mine, our insecurities are like, whoop, like you probably have bigger dicks than me.
What do
you probably
guys
have better
think?
than me.
Okay. That's what they think?
Yeah, because we're idiots sometimes when it comes to that, because we're raised with porn. We see the worst type. We learn about women through porn and movies.
Bad.
And social media. Well, I didn't, but younger men do now. And that is horrible. So they automatically think you have more than me. Oh my God, you probably had somebody better than me. Now in the back of our mind, we're creating this character X who was the one who gave her the best, railing ever. And we can never compete to that, which is, again, it's insecurities, and we don't know our self-worth, and we're not confident in ourselves. And
I mean, how many men would say that their wife, if they've fucked a billion girls, that their wife was the best blowjob they ever had? Do you think? I think they would lie and say that it is their wife, but it probably was some like stripper in Miami that sucked his dick really, really, really good, and that was the best one. I don't know.
Well, I think deep down, every guy has that one that, she was the best. And sometimes it's a girlfriend and the wife. Sometimes it's not. That's our thing. I mean, just like, what do they call it? The devil dick, devil D. Women know they've all had that one lover who was the best. Or like girls always say broke dick is the best dick. Because one time I dated my first boyfriend. I was like 19 years old. And my dad was like, he's so romantic. He's like, that's all he has to give you. That's the only thing he has. So of course he's really good at that. And I remember thinking like, oh yeah, that's true. He really has nothing else to offer me. So every guy that was really, really emotionally fed me cheated on me. Really? And I'm fucked up for that. I mean, I need to work that out in therapy. I don't know what that means. And I don't want to be cynical towards men, which sometimes, because I've been cheated on so many times, sometimes it's hard to believe that someone could be monogamous forever. I truthfully believe marriage is not made for everybody. There's maybe a small percentage of people who are capable of saying, I do, and that's it. That's your lobster for the rest of your life. Yeah. And then there's others like, or seasonal, who are like, I can marry you. We'll be great for 5-7 years, but like a car lease, but that's more or less it. And then if you have kids, it like fucks your kids up, or it could. I don't know. Going back to the broke dick, since the majority of my listeners are guys, especially in the podcast space, does size matter? No, size doesn't matter. It's totally how you work it. I mean, obviously, I think there's too big and there's too small. Like a micro penis might, I would want to gift them a strap on kind of thing, which wouldn't that be horrible? A man with a penis wearing a strap on. I don't know. I couldn't even think about that. My God. That was mean, but there's things you can do. There's things that can help a micro penis out. I know they exist somewhere. It's 2023. They have to. And then there's too big, where girls are like, that's painful and that's intimidating and that's going to destroy me, not in a good way. Like, I don't even want that to come near me. So I think there's both, but there's, guys are so hard on themselves. They're so obsessed with their penis size. I get asked that all the time. Will you look at it and rate it? I'm like, no, really? I won't. Oh my God. I know girls that charge money to do those, but my husband doesn't really want me participating in that. What? A dick evaluation? Dick ratings. Oh my God. I did not know that existed. They'll pay you money to do dick ratings. And they'll send pictures of their dick. And I get unsolicited ones all the time. I got an unsolicited dick picture, which is so weird, because you're like, what if, they would love it if they got an unsolicited pic. But I was like, no, let's just
don't. And they stopped. Once I screenshot one and put it on my story, it stopped.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
When I got divorced, I had a lot of female friends in the corporate space. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go date. Give me some tips. Don't send dick pics. I'm like, what the fuck is that? What? Like a dick, guys take pictures of their dicks and send. Why? Like, does that work? I mean,
why?
It freaked me out. I didn't know that existed before 2016. So I remember like, wow. But apparently, as I knew other women and talked to them, became friends with a lot of them, there's a small percentage that do like that. Them. And that's why, guys, if it works, a video. You prefer a video instead of a picture?
A video. Yeah. Because then that's like cool. Like mutual masturbation. Like it's cool to see what he's doing, but a pic, like, no. How do I know it's yours or whatever, right? I remember this one girl, I've never sent one and I never will. This one girl asked me, can you send me one? I'm like, sure. I just Google black cocks and I send her a black cock. Just to mess with her. Because all we'll do is show everybody. That is really what girls do. They get them to send the group text, if you want me to be completely honest.
Oh, I'm sure. So just like guys, girls, when you women send booty pics, we share them like Pokemon cards over here in the guy space. Like, hey, I'm going to do her tonight. You know, what would you rate her?
It goes both ways. It goes both ways.
It does. So, I believe your point with size. It doesn't matter. And I think for guys, we see, again, we learn majority of young men don't have that conversation with their parents, or there's no sex ed in school anymore. So we learn about sex through pornography. And who do we see? Like I'm saying John Holmes, I'm aging myself, but we see these guys that are all huge, right? Dirk Diggler. Yeah. And we think that's what women want, because the women in the video is like, well, the movie's not lying to me. Look at her. That's what they crave. And that's how we learn. I hate
that porn's a teacher. It's because it's such a bad teacher with horrible expectations. And if they really saw how that porn was made, everybody should go watch a porn documentary, and then your eyes will be opened to how not, like, some of the times they're not having fun. The girl starts her period, or the girl's like already fucked 6 guys before that shoot and she's down and out, or they have to stop because he came and they have to start over and he needs a Viagra. It's just not as glamorous as it looks. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As a young man, though, you're just too consumed. I mean, my God, when I was younger, we had the scrambled channels and maybe a Playboy. But if I was a young kid nowadays, I would be fucked, because it's all right there. And I can only imagine a young man I hear there's a lot of young men who now have ED because they've been jerking off to porn since they were like 14. And now they're in their 20s. They have a woman in front of them and they can't get hard.
Oh, and there's ways, like with psychology and practicing simulating sex, like by, instead of watching porn with your lotion in front, or lube, whatever, in front of your computer screen in your world, you're simulating sex in that way, to like go on your bed and practice masturbating without porn. It could be very beneficial, but people really do. It rewires their brain for sure.
Yeah. That totally makes sense. And it can take some time. And, what's not talked about is the other side. Again, when I became single, I was more or less like a man whore. I just wanted to have fun because I've only had one woman my entire life. Yeah. And I remember dating this one woman and I couldn't get her to orgasm. I had this rule, like, I'm going to give you 3 to my 1. That's just my the good efforts, the good juju that I'm putting out to the world.
Selflessness, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I remember this one woman, I couldn't get her to orgasm. I'm like, is it me? What, you want me to touch you a different way? What?
Probably wasn't you.
She told me, and we fixed it. She had not had sex for a year and a half, and she was using her vibrator every day.
Oh, yeah, don't do that, girl.
So her clitoris was only used to that motion, and I can't go like 40 RPMs. You
can't be a vibrator.
You can't. So we had to tell her no more. And it took about a couple of weeks, but after a while of not using it and just me, we finally got her there, and we broke up a month later.
You have to wean off of it. You have to like withdraw from your vibrator.
Yeah. And again, that's not talked about enough. There's men with porn, and there's women with all these sci-fi vibrators with, USB ports and all these type of different motions and lights and everything.
And girls will not know that it can get better. And so they'll take their vibrator in the bedroom with them so that they can orgasm with their husband, and they're not getting better. So it's best to like wean off of it for sure. Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts? Like with all the men that you've spoken to and like all the scenarios that you've discussed, do men have a problem if the wife or girlfriend they're seeing says, hey, I have this black stallion or whatever, some other vibrator. Can I bring it into the bedroom? Are men cool with that?
I mean, I think my listeners are. I think they're very super pro bringing something because it's just your friend. I'm not really a big vibrator person, but bring in a dildo or there's all kinds of toys. There's toys you can use together that's inside of you while he is an anal plug. There's all kinds of toys that you can wear a cock sleeve or something. I don't know. It just kind of mixes it up, especially if you've been married for a little while. It's fun to just incorporate something new sometimes. So I would tell the guys that they're your friend.
Yeah. And they're helping you out. They're both getting her to where she wants to go. So.
And sometimes girls like double penetration or I know guys can use their hands, but sometimes it's fun.
Mm-hmm. Now going to porn back. I want to bring that back and men learning about sex and women through that. Like, what if some of your listeners, female listeners, have said, like, he's doing this and he thinks I like it, but he's totally wrong? Like, what are some men doing?
Definitely positions. I think there's some positions you think that look good in porn and they don't really feel good for the girl.
Like what? Like example?
Or just like when a girl... Maybe in porn, the way she's angled looks really aesthetically pleasing. Like how her back is arched and like she's trying to be hot for the POV camera or whatever, when really that is not the idea. Like say he's laying down and she's on her feet, like bouncing up on his dick. And that's great and looks really hot and her tits look great. But what if she really needs stimulation on her clit? Which, I mean, get your hand involved, but you need to speak up and bring your man's hand over to you, or make sure you know your body and you share that with your partner. Like one man I talked to said he always had his girlfriend, like when a girl became his girlfriend or when he would have her masturbate in front of him so he knew how she liked to be touched, like how she touched her clit, etc. Which is kind of genius.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's brilliant.
That's kind of genius.
Wow. I'm going to clip this and put it on TikTok and everything.
Like, that is a good idea. And I mean, that's hot too, because if the girl's into being told what to do, perfect. Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how many women would push against that. Like, no, I just met you. I don't know yet. I'm too shy and all that.
It depends. I mean, I guess gauge the girl, get a read on her and see what kind of girl she is. I mean, read the room. I don't know. I don't know. What were we talking about? Can you see that?
We're talking about the other positions.
Like, what was the question?
We're talking about positions and that look aesthetically pleasing on video, but not in real life. Yeah.
That's what you were talking about, though. And bad examples of porn?
Sure.
Is that okay? I don't know. I think that the dick size, like you were saying with men's dicks, I mean, that's dumb. Like, I think they have all the enhancement opportunities in the world. If you Google the average size of a dick, what is it? Isn't it like 4.5? 4,
yeah, some of that.
I was like, so that should help guys know, like, clearly there is an average size and it's not in the porn. Mm-hmm. And I think with women, I had a female listener write in and she was like, my husband always says that he's not really into big fake tits. And she's like, I have nice boobs, like big boobs. Yeah. Not like, she said they're big, but they're not like big, fake, hard boobs. And she's like, my husband always says like, about them. And then I went and looked at his porn history and she goes, he has a favorite porn, like it's a favorite because he's watching her all the time. Mm-hmm. And she is much older than her, like 50, like late 50s, like Milfy Gilfy or whatever. Yeah. Uh-huh. And huge, obscenely huge, rock hard fake tits. And she's like, how? Why does he wish I was older? I'm like, that's awesome that he's older because you're only getting older, bitch. So perfect. Mm-hmm. Because what if it was like a 20-year-old? You're not going backwards. Mm-hmm. But she was like, what does this mean? Is he lying to me? And I'm like, no, I think it's just fantasy land. And as long as he's not watching this same girl for like 4 years in a row, then I think you're fine.
Yeah. And I'm sure
what is that?
Well, I'll be honest with you, and you probably know this, but guys, it's the attraction or whatever we look for in like Pornhub. It's like a seasonal thing. We change tastes. It could be brunettes with big booties one day for a quarter, and then it's redheads, and then it's blondes, or it's women with natural tits, fake tits, slim Latinas, slim white girls. We change because we jerk off to the same thing.
Food.
Exactly. So we jerk off to like this one brunette, for 3 months. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of bored. Let's go to threesomes. Let's go to foursomes.
Okay.
Let's go. So we change. So it's probably the timing that of her seeing what he was into at that moment. She caught him in a bad
season.
Don't think too much into it.
I told her, I was like, don't even go there. I was like, don't torture yourself. He doesn't want you to have those big fake tits.
No. And to be honest, most guys, when you see these guys like these IG models or these porn stars, those are fantasies. We wouldn't want to be married to them. We'll want to have sex, but there's not what we want in real life. We just want a woman naturally beautiful. We love beauty. Of course, we love beauty, but natural beauty and a woman who's confident in herself and confident in the sex space is what we like. And is open to exploring items because, as you said, I can attest to this, 10, 12 years in a marriage, you've done everything. Yeah. Absolutely everything. And it's like, well, what now? You're bored. So you have to keep that fire open. You have to keep that fire on. There are some couples
that the ones that have successfully like changed lifestyles where they go from monogamous and then when they're empty nesters, when they're 45, 55, they go, you know what? Is this it? Like, is this all we do? And they consciously and intentionally decide like, let's open our relationship or let's swing. Maybe they don't open their relationship. Maybe they just go to sex parties and they do whatever, but they are so about their boundaries and communication and they're a healthy couple. It tends to work out really well for them. And the stories they tell, they seem so fucking healthy and like they don't believe love is possessive. But the couples that hate each other's guts or they grow apart and they just stay together for the kids and they fucking kind of hate each other and they're not fucking and maybe they cheat. And they're like, what now? Let's just go fuck other people. Let's swap. It's usually chaos and destruction.
Yeah.
So that's what I found.
God, I can go on and on about that. Before we got divorced, that was my idea. I go, let's file. We tried for 3 years. It's not going to work. She had asked, would you be open to an open marriage?
Your ex-wife.
I'm like, my ex-wife. And this is 16 years in, mind you. And I was like,
oh my gosh,
let me think about it. And I thought about it for a couple of days. And then I go, no, we're not in a healthy space. This is only going to add fuel to the fire. I did a lot of research. You have to be in a very good space with your spouse, with trust. It all has to be there, a strong foundation before you can even go out and do that because it's only going to make things worse. Jealousy is going to spark up.
Yep.
It can be great on paper. Let's do it. But when the actual night happens, that's when things implode. So I said, no, I can't do that. But if we were in a healthy space, I would have said yes. And I probably would still be married.
Yeah. No.
If we were.
Yeah. That makes sense because you have to be able to talk about that shit. One day, your wife could have a boyfriend that she had and she gets broken up with and she's crying about it and you're like, what the fuck? I don't know. Yeah. I think you have to be able to be best friends for sure.
I had a friend who, high school sweethearts, let's have a threesome. So they brought a woman in. It was great. But his wife fell in love with the woman.
Where was the woman from? Like,
I don't
say
know.
That again?
Well, here we go. So they had a threesome, right? 2 women and him. His wife fell in love with a woman and divorced him and left with the woman.
Whose idea was the threesome?
I don't know, but it came up.
It was hers.
Probably hers.
She was like, I love that. Fuck you.
I know, like, hey, you can stay. I'm open. Y'all can do what you want, like whatever. But
usually I thought it would be the other way around.
Oh, yeah.
I think if people have threesomes, they need to let the girl pick the other girl.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's one thing I never done. I tried, but it never fell through. The plans always were canceled that night. So that's one thing on the bucket list I didn't do.
From y'all or from them?
No, from me. Like when I was in the single life, everyone said they're down, but the night showed up and one didn't show up and flaked. Like, damn it.
Not. I would be scary to do with someone that lives close by to me. I'd want to be in another country.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so then I never have to see her ever again or deal with her. She's not going to hit us up. We're not going to run into her at the grocery store. Like, no way. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's just me.
Well, I mean, everyone's different. And apparently with younger kids like millennials or whatever, like I'm talking like early 20s, late 20s, I'm seeing a lot more of them being open to the idea to be in a polyamorous relationship and to be in an open relationship. They're wired differently than me.
I mean, a little.
What's that?
It's scary. I mean, it is freaky a little bit, but I just feel like maybe I sound like an old person.
No.
Just everything is changing, and I don't know. I'm going to sound old. It's wild what we celebrate and put on a pedestal these days. And I think that, I don't know. I don't want to be negative. I think there's a lot of amazing things with the acceptance that we have now as far as being open-minded to different lifestyles, but there's also something really beautiful about like choosing your partner, and it's not easy to be monogamous. It's really, really fucking hard. But I think that we live in a time where it's so about self-serving and like, this doesn't serve me anymore, drop it. This doesn't make me feel good anymore, drop it. It's like things are gonna fucking not feel good sometimes. And you ride through.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
true.
that's me.
No, I don't have any rebuttal to that, but yeah, I agree. It's very dangerous. And I think social media and our phones have given us windows to the possibilities of, this is out there. And like that movie Inception, once an idea gets in your brain, it can just like grow into this insane consuming thought.
We have like a grass is greener mentality a lot of the times of like something else sounds more exciting, more rewarding. And I think we do miss out on a lot of like gratitude. Like if we were sitting in gratitude with what we had, it feels so much better and you're not romanticizing every other possibility. That's how I stay monogamous, but to each their own.
Yeah. Yeah. To each their own. And, I want to go back real quick to the Horny Housewife. If you say that out loud, I know you would probably get a reaction from married men like, sure, there is no such thing. You know, what the hell is that? That's like a rare dinosaur that never existed at one time in mythical ages, but it doesn't exist.
No, there's lots of them.
Okay, great. That's exactly what everyone wants to hear. If a guy's married, what can he do to ensure that his wife is always horny? Like, what can he do? I'm not talking the first year. I'm talking like the first 7. Like, what can a guy do?
To pursue her, because I think women like to be pursued. I know that gets old, guys, especially chasing something you feel like you already have, but it really does spice it up. And then exploring together. Like, I think you should watch porn together. I think you should have weird conversations, and maybe that's awkward for you to talk about, but resources like this podcast, my podcast, and I mean, Google is just like an endless resource of all these. There's games you can play to spark a conversation that maybe you wouldn't otherwise have. So I think you just have to be intentional. Mm-hmm.
And when you say pursue, I know how guys' brains are wired. Give me a scenario, like, in other words, I guess, continue to date her, like continue to flirt with her.
Not everyone is super into gender roles. So to each their own, but for me, like if I'm sharing what I like my husband to plan a date and tell me what time it's going to be. Or tell me like what he wants me to wear. Some girls would not like to be told what to wear, but I think it's really assertive and sexy for him to plan something because that's not like him. So when he does it, I know he's trying, kind of thing. He's not the most romantic guy in the world, but he tries to show me because he knows that matters to me. So knowing your wife's love language, is it acts of service? Is it gifts? Is it physical touch? Is it words of affirmation? You need to love her in a way she'll feel loved. And then usually that's reciprocated. I feel like the man really sets the tone in the household. So if your wife isn't acting how you want her to, see the part you play in it. I know that's really hard. And I'm not making an excuse for your wife being a bitch, because there are totally women being bitches out there. But sometimes you have a part. Mm-hmm.
And it's that self-awareness that is lacking sometimes. We think we're the perfect husband. We think we're doing everything right. And she's just a total bitch and doing all these things. So, that internal evaluation can be tough for a lot of people. They may not be ready for that.
I mean, it's when do you want change? So if you want something to change, you have to do something different, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With marriage, it's funny because, like I said, I've been there, done that. And when I see on social media is one, there's a lot of horrible advice out there and a lot of pressure. It's like, and I've seen it firsthand, and I know part of having a successful marriage is having a great sex life. You need it. It's absolute paramount. It's one of the cornerstones. But I've seen it, and I know this happens, and you could probably speak to this as well. I think a lot of people get married and are not honest about what they want sexually, or who they are.
And that's shame. That's like their own shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And they need to have that conversation because there's many women who've messaged me and said, I'm bisexual. I never told him because he doesn't believe in that. Here I am 10 years in. What do I do? I'm like, fuck.
He doesn't believe in that. What does that mean?
Some people, I'm not a political guy, but some of those, people, those evangelical Christian,
they think it's like a sin. They think it's a sin.
It's a sin. It's an abomination. How can dare you be attracted to another woman? A lot of them are in that space, or a lot of them are just scared of what he'll think or how he'll react.
I mean, there is a time where you might need to walk sometimes. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't imagine, but I don't know. I think you'd have to someone's going to have to give a little bit. I mean, if he doesn't believe in what you feel you are, I don't know how you stay married to that, but.
I agree. And Jordyn, I have one last question. I started this a couple episodes back. And as I mentioned to you in the beginning, is my platform, my whole persona started with me acknowledging mistakes I made and what I learned from them and how I became a better person. So my question to you is this. What is one of the biggest mistakes you've ever made, and what did you learn from it?
It doesn't need to be in my current relationship.
It can be anything, whatever you want to share.
I mean, it's going to be similar to yours, but when I cheated on a person I really cared about, and I fell into the trap of, lust and infatuation, and I was delusional, and I thought that I found a person who sees me, and it really was, I was so lost and I needed validation externally over and over and over. So I think it's easy to get swept away when you're feeding the wrong wolf, or like you're feeding the wrong thing. I don't know what to say. So I think be mindful of what are you watering? Like, are you watering your yard? Are you watering someone else's yard? Because it'll fuck you up. And if you neglect your yard, it'll get taken over by weeds and you'll die. So not really, but your yard will die.
Yeah, metaphorically, I totally get that. Yeah, you have to totally get that. But again, Jordyn, AKA the Horny Housewife, thank you for being on the podcast. Tell everybody where they can find you before we end.
You can find me on Instagram @_ the Horny Housewife podcast, or you can look up the Horny Housewife podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Awesome.